I'm sure you're in constant contact with AJ about every single trade rumor that's out there.
No, that's not AJ.
But do you expect Michael King to be your biggest post-deadline acquisition?
I can't speak to that. I mean, well, I'll let you know at the end of the All-Star, at the end of the trade deadline. And, you know, I am in contact with AJ. He's phenomenal, but I love the way we work together because, you know, I manage the club that he gives us, and I know he's working hard to always give us the best club he can within the parameters he's been given. Yeah, I mean, Michael King comes back, whether we add and what we add, it's hard to say relative to Michael coming back, but, you know, it's going to be hard to expect anything better than Michael King.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV. I'm Marty Caswell. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players' Place. We are 2 days away from the MLB trade deadline. The Padres have yet to make a move. I'm delighted to go ahead and welcome into the show AJ Cassavell. AJ, first of all, excuse the chaos behind me. I'm in my room right now. The carpet, my entire place is being replaced. So I have like three bedrooms worth of stuff jammed into my room. You're going to hear some banging going on behind me because the construction workers are ripping out the floors. So I apologize to all of you for the chaos. How are you today, AJ?
Good. I see you got the Buzz Lightyear up behind your shoulder. That's solid.
That's not mine. That's not mine, but it's really solid. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
great. It should be yours. It's going well. It's trade deadline season and they haven't done anything yet. And so I'm just sitting here kind of like all jittery waiting for something to happen.
I'm kind of with you. The last time we talked, I know the line people jumped at us when you said you'd be absolutely shocked if the Padres didn't add at least 2 bats by the deadline. We are 2 days away. Are you surprised at all they haven't made any move whatsoever, or are teams just kind of waiting for all the dominoes to fall before they figure something out?
I guess I'm a little surprised that it took that they played 3 now almost 4 months of the season without getting that bat like earlier, like maybe a month or 2 ago, because there were options just to be had just as like a minor upgrade kind of at the bottom of the lineup, and then you can upgrade kind of seriously at the deadline. So I'm surprised that like they basically played this season and their biggest upgrade. I think maybe their only upgrade on the offensive side of the ball is Bryce Johnson, who has been very solid lately, but like I think they're looking for more than that. But once it kind of got to like July All-Star break and they hadn't done anything, and it didn't surprise me because we've seen AJ on the final day of the trade deadline, on the final couple days of the trade deadline, swing multiple deals going in multiple directions. And I think he understands that that's when teams have to make a decision by. So that's when their prices will come down. And so I think you're playing with fire a little bit, because you need to win these games presently to set yourself up. But once you get into July and you've made it work in the rotation and you've made it work with a lineup that's essentially been 7 hitters deep for most of the year, like you can say, all right, let's wait till the prices are when they're going to be best. And that is on July 31st after the Padres play that game on Wednesday.
When the Red Sox come into Petco Park, I think it's next weekend, who is Jared Duran playing for?
Probably the Red Sox. I mean,
they're
a pretty good team. Yeah, they're a pretty good team, and they're probably playoff bound. And I've seen his name swirling in so many rumors and everything, but that is the likeliest option. That doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. I'm not as keyed in on the Red Sox, obviously, but I would put that likelihood at probably above 50%, just because he's a good player on a good team that has playoff ambitions, and I don't know that the teams that want him, and there are several, including the Padres, would have the prospect package to give up to get him back.
Yesterday, a couple notable things happened. One, Eugenio Suarez, who was the top trade candidate for the D-backs, was taken out of the game. He was hit. He had an X-ray. He seems to be okay. And then later on, Dylan Cease, of course, that scary line drive or the comeback with the one hopper that hit him in the head. And I hope he's okay. We didn't get a chance to go ahead and talk to Dylan Cease. I know Mike Schultz said in postgame that he's going to get a CT scan, so hopefully some good news on Dylan Cease. And I hate to be that person, but how much do you think that's going to change the Padres' ability to trade him? Should they still be intent on doing so?
I don't think it'll change it, because I think he's okay. If there were any indication that he weren't, then he shouldn't have been pitching at all in that game last night. He shouldn't have gone past whatever was going on in the second inning. So I think he's okay, and the teams that are interested in him would be okay. I think the question with trading for Dylan Cease is basically what it's been all season, which is like, what do you make of these struggles that he's had where he hasn't been the dominant version of himself? But I still maintain that he's very close to being that, but he just does some, like the first inning last night, he was unbelievable. He's blowing fastballs and sliders by these guys, and maybe he didn't have the best command, but they're still swinging and missing, and those are three of the best hitters in the league. And you start to think, oh, this is going to be kind of where Dylan Cease turns it around, and that's maybe the 13th time this season that I've thought that. And then he gets to the fifth inning, and I know he's thrown a lot of pitches. He's probably the only guy on the staff that gets to go 102 pitches in that spot. But he gives up the grand slam, and I talked to him the other day. I think there's a lot of maybe people apologizing for his struggles this year by pointing out his peripherals, his FIP, his expected ERA. Like they all say he should be much better than he's been. He doesn't say any of that. He says, yeah, maybe. Like maybe I've pitched pretty well, but like not when it matters, not in the big spots. I get into the big spots and I hang a slider and they hit it out, and like those are the margins in the majors. So like credit to him for kind of owning the season that he's had. So anyway, long story short, like what are teams going to give up for Dylan Cease? The Padres value Dylan Cease pretty highly. Like they view him as part of, like if they don't trade him, he's part of their playoff rotation. He's part of a rotation that has question marks with Yu Darvish. Michael King obviously trending in the right direction, but still question marks. Nick Pivetta has never had a season like this before. Like Dylan Cease is still the steadiest guy in terms of what you can expect and how deep he can go into a season. He never misses a start. So that leads me to think the Padres will set a high price tag, and I've heard they will set a high price tag. I know they set one in the offseason. They'd like to do so again if they're going to move him. Who's going to meet that price tag if Dylan Cease is struggling? Does some team kind of see those peripherals and say, that's the guy he can be, that's the guy we can make him? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, in the next 3 days.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up. And by the way, you're absolutely right. There was a lot of very encouraging news from Michael King yesterday, who threw a sim game, 3 innings, about 40 pitches. And he said he felt great. I'm sorry, this noise is making me crazy behind me. I'm not sure if you can hear me. But
it's not so bad on my end. I can
okay, good.
It's
my microphone's picking up everything. But I'm just thinking, like, is it Berger? I haven't even seen the update from the Padres. Is it Berger going today for the Padres?
Berger pitching tonight, Darvish pitching tomorrow, and so that'll bump that back to Friday.
Okay. If you're the Padres and you're the Padres fans, your expectation, your hope is the playoff. What? Okay, Nick Pivetta. Give me your locks here on July 29th as the Padres are 58 and 49, and they have possession of the number for the third wild card. What does a realistic playoff rotation look like? I'm asking that because are we at a point that, well, if they move Cease, we're talking about, Steven Kolek filling that role, or Ryan Berger in that role, or David Borg in that role? It just sounds a little bit ludicrous when you're thinking you're going to be facing a team like the Mets, right? Maybe a team like the Dodgers, a team like the Phillies. What do you envision as a realistic playoff rotation?
I don't think. All right, so let's start with this. Like playoff rotation in the championship series is probably different than the first 2 rounds because of the off days you have and because the wild card series is short. So Padres aren't probably going to win the division, I don't think. So a wild card series rotation, you can line up probably like King, Pivetta, and then either Cease, or I am still convinced that if they move Cease, they land someone capable of filling that number 3 spot in the rotation in return. Not in return necessarily in that trade, but just in a separate trade with what they have. I think that should be the bar when they're searching for a pitching for an arm, is like, if it's not it doesn't have to be as good as Dylan Cease. Like Dylan Cease's ceiling is almost as good as any pitcher in baseball, but just someone who can slot into that game 3 start, because at this point we've seen what Yu Darvish has given the Padres. They have I think 4 games worth of data to work with. They're going to have a 5th game worth of data. I'm not ready to like write Yu Darvish off. I think a lot of the fan base kind of has based on the last couple starts. He didn't have any sort of serious like spring training buildup in this phase of his rehab. He didn't really pitch in any type of game setting in any rehabs. He just basically started pitching against major league hitters. So I kind of view it as Darvish being at like late stage spring training while the whole rest of the league is in mid-season form. So that tells me that like Yu Darvish could be that guy, but I don't think you can go into this trade deadline operating under the assumption that Yu Darvish will be that guy, because he also has not looked good. He's also given up a lot of hard contact. He's also really kind of struggled. I just think that if you're lining up a playoff rotation, the Padres need to look for who that number 3 guy can be behind King and Pivetta. I think you feel optimistic about what King is. You kind of that Michael King's kind of just a guy at this point where it's like, well, if something else happens with that nerve, it doesn't seem likely that it will. That's generally not the way these kinds of injuries work. Like, I think he comes back and he's good to go. But if something happens, then you're just kind of screwed either way. So you're lining up King, Pivetta, someone in that number 3 spot, and then maybe Yu Darvish does what he did last September, where he looks really good down the stretch. And he didn't pitch in that wild card series last year either. He was basically the Padres' number 4 starter in the playoffs. So I think you've managed with all that to avoid pitching Stephen Kolek, Ryan Bergert, Randy Vasquez. There's probably a place for them, long men in the bullpen. But if you do that at the deadline, and then if, God forbid, one of those guys gets hurt, I still don't know how Randy Vasquez is doing it. I still have no idea. It's been unbelievable to watch. It's every single start. It's the same thing, and like it's clearly not a fluke, but it's not supposed to happen this way where you don't really strike anyone out and you walk a bunch of guys and you're still really, really good. But he manages to get balls hit right at defenders, and it's mostly soft contact too, so maybe it's deserved. But then I would say he's the 5th guy in case of emergency in a postseason rotation, unless the Padres were to add 2 starters, which I don't think they would. They have so many needs elsewhere, but that's the way I view it.
Didn't you just outline the exact reason why the Padres might contemplate keeping Dylan Cease? I realize he's gonna
Yes.
walk. You're gonna get nothing in return, but you pointed out a lot of, well, if this happens, and you're hoping. I don't know that hope is the proper tactic for. And I love you, Darvish, for a 38-year-old pitcher who's getting older and dealing with children information. I don't know that. How do you tie your postseason hopes into maybe hopeful?
I think the counter to that, and the reason they would feel a little more comfortable dealing Cease, is the fact that their bullpen has been as good as it's been, and the fact that a lot of those guys can go multiple innings. And if they were to, I still would not be surprised if they were to even add to that bullpen. Not a guy of the quality of the 4 horsemen, but like the 5th horseman, the next guy.
Okay.
Yeah, like I could see them doing that. And if they have 5 guys that can essentially cover like 6-7 innings in a game, and you have off days in the postseason to work with, I think you could feel a little more comfortable with that 4th spot in the rotation being such a question mark going into the postseason. That's the bullpen covers up a lot of question marks in the rotation. I think we've seen it with these 3 guys. Like Bergert, Vasquez, and Kolek have been awesome. They've been everything the Padres could have hoped for. They wouldn't be as good as they've been if it weren't for the fact that Mike Schilt can go to that bullpen in the 4th or 5th or 6th inning, because like if you ask those guys to pitch deeper into games, just the nature of pitching, like that's when they start to wear down. But the bullpen's been so good, I think the Padres can feel pretty good about it.
A lot of teams need closers. Emmanuel Clase may have just instantly turned the Guardians into complete and total sellers, and we'll get to the Stephen Kwan situation next. But how attractive a piece do you think Robert Suarez is right now?
I think teams want him. I don't think the Padres want to trade him. He's
Okay.
I know he blew the save last night. I think you can make a case that like among the 4 horsemen, like he might be the 4th best reliever. At least in present form. I think maybe upside. They're all awesome. Like those 4 pitchers are all great. I think the numbers indicate right now Suarez isn't as good as the other 3. That doesn't mean he shouldn't be he should be the closer. Like he's been pretty lights out at the back end, which is an animal that like a lot of guys kind of don't experience until they're in it. So having that experience, the fact like what I just mentioned, like he'll be worth what teams are willing to pay, which is probably some prospects, but he's an expiring contract. This Padres team is built around its bullpen.
Yeah.
They're not like they might I still say they add 2 hitters. Maybe they're not like overwhelmingly great hitters. Maybe their lineup still has question marks at the bottom. Maybe they still have question marks in the rotation. I'll tell you what, like they can still win because their bullpen is that good. They can still win because if they're playing a division series on back-to-back nights, they can go to Adrian Morejon in the 4th inning and just blow through those guys 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then you can do it again the next night. Like teams are gonna have a hard time beating the Padres because of how good this bullpen is. And if you're looking to trade from the back end of it in order to bolster yourself in the future, for probably not that great a return because this is it is the final year of his deal and he has a player option for 2 more years. I just don't see the Padres dealing from that strength. I could be wrong, but it's been such a strength, and it's the reason I look at them as a legitimate contender is because they have the best bullpen in baseball.
So the Padres may not line up prospect-wise with a team like the Boston Red Sox, who they'll face next weekend. Of course, it's a team also fighting for playoff position. Who are some bats that would make sense? Now, I saw that Buster Olney put out there earlier that Marcell Ozuna could be an interesting fit for the Padres. Is that someone you think that Preller would kick the tires on?
Sure. There's obviously varying levels, like in terms of like what you're going to give up versus how much you're going to what are you going to pay versus how good is this guy? Ozuna has some obvious flaws. Like he's old. He doesn't play a position. Like he's not as versatile. His bat can still, I think, be pretty useful. You stick that bat in the number 8 spot in the lineup, maybe the number 7 spot against the lefty. Like the lineup is significantly better. Like that's true, even though his bat isn't clearly what it was. There are bigger names the Padres can and probably should shoot for. I think you mentioned Stephen Kwan.
Yes.
They would like to go and get Jarren Duran if he were available. Like those kind of guys. And then like there's tiers of what the Padres have to give up to get them, because those are 2 really, really good players, all-star caliber players. Then there's I don't know, Jesus Sanchez, Taylor Ward. I think I mentioned those guys a couple times. Like they're available outfielders. Just bats. Like it doesn't have to be. It's just going to be whoever they line up with. I think knowing AJ Preller, he's going to shoot for the biggest names first. And when he finds those trades unpalatable, which I think he will, because I don't think he has the prospect depth to just be parting with guys. I think all of a sudden that becomes then you start moving down the tiers and find out if and they need to add someone. So if you get all the way down to Ozuna and he's your best option for the cheapest price, you trade for Ozuna. But first you ask for what it takes to get a guy like Stephen Kwan.
I thought that Mike Schultz made some interesting comments over the past couple of weeks. I know he's been asked a couple ad nauseum, why are you pinch hitting Trenton Brooks in a key situation? And he would say, listen, I'm going with the guys that I currently have to work with. And then yesterday I asked him at the trade deadline, and he mentioned that, AJ's doing a great job, but he's also working with the parameters he's been given. What parameters does AJ Preller have? Does he need to cut payroll during this trade deadline? What do we know from Padres ownership, since I don't think we've talked to them since maybe spring training?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about cutting payroll. I think it's not about it's about not adding payroll and like keeping it flat where it is. I think right now they're right at the second luxury tax threshold, which would mean like some of these guys we're talking about, depending on who they are, some of them have lower salaries, which makes them harder to acquire. Need to throw in more prospects. I mean, you can always kind of do what they did with Luis Arraez last season, which is you give up a little bit more in that package, and then the Marlins eat more of that salary. Kind of depends who it's going to be. If you're taking on a guy for multiple seasons, then all of a sudden you get that salary for next year. I think the parameters right now are being framed through this season. Like keep the payroll where it is this season, but I don't know the specifics of like what's been told to Preller, because like you said, we haven't gotten to talk to management much. But I do think while there may be like restrictions on kind of what can be spent, I think it's like there's flexibility for Preller to get the job done, acquiring the pieces that he needs to upgrade this team. I don't think that it's prohibitive in that sense at all.
I had brought up the name. I may not have been to you. I think it was to Kyle Glazer of Sandy Alcantara before the Padres were on this last road trip because of the uncertainty of the pitching, and of course deep playoff teams, great playoff teams. You can't have enough starting pitching. Does Sandy Alcantara make sense for the Padres?
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Everything that you just talked about, you're going to need pitching. If you're AJ Preller, you're thinking about this season, but also next season, because you have quite a few pitchers leaving this rotation. Why would he not make sense?
I think he makes a ton of sense. I think he completely makes sense. Like I could easily see him coming to San Diego and finding that Cy Young caliber form because of what the Padres pitching department has done, because it's easier to pitch in San Diego, because maybe he thrives in an environment where like the game's matter every night.
Mhm.
What's it going to take to get him? And like
Young,
there are other
controllable
teams.
pitching prospects.
There are other teams that are interesting. There are other teams that would like Sandy Alcantara. I think the Mets are probably one of them. Like, there's all sorts of teams that are in.
Dodgers.
I think I saw one of the comments here say like there's not a dominant team. Well, I think some of these teams that see that there aren't any dominant teams are maybe just like one dominant arm away. So Alcantara he's not a dominant arm right now, but he clearly can be. And like he would fit the Padres. He would fit a lot of different teams just in terms of long term. I think that's a guy where like if you're trading for Alcantara or if it's Mitch Keller or Edward Cabrera, like in those scenarios, you're trading Dylan Cease and because otherwise, like it's going to cost too much in prospect capital and it's just going to be completely depleted in the farm system. So you're probably trading away Dylan Cease, freeing up that money, freeing up the flexibility, and using some prospects that you get to trade for one of those guys. I mean, it's complex. Like AJ Preller doesn't keep things simple and straightforward, but I think that's like there are maybe like 4 or 5 different paths that I could see the Padres taking. That's maybe the most eventful one, but it's definitely one I could see happening.
He doesn't tell us. It would be just like him. AJ, we have spent so much time talking about the need to add offense, right? Need not just one bat, you need 2 bats, you need a catcher, you need to shore up your bench. Just imagine if what AJ does is play up to the strengths, which is the bullpen, and he trades for more relief pitching. And why not? Because you're using your high leverage guys so often. Yeah. Why not go with an opener situation, get 3 good innings from Darvish, 3 from Dylan Cease, and then turn it over to, to Morahone in the 4th inning?
They could do that. I think there's a very good chance that like one of the if they were to keep Dylan Cease and if they were to add lower level bats, like bats that come cheap and bats that just improve the 8th spot in the order and the bench, like what else do they look to add? The 5th horseman, the reliever, like the next guy, because I don't like it's a first world problem to be asking like, oh, who's our 5th best reliever? Who's the 5th guy we really trust in a playoff game? Because the Padres have 4 guys that they can really, really trust. But it is a question they should be asking because I look at this bullpen right now and like David Morgan, Yuki Matsui, Wandy Peralta, it's like there are question marks there. Like who, because the rotation will maybe have questions in October. At some point, you're going to need that guy, that 5th guy to be important. If you acquire someone, you could kind of ride that whole bullpen the whole game in game 4 of the division series. I just think that it would not surprise me at all if they added to the bullpen because we've seen like just Preller's ethos and the way he operates at the trade deadline has been in the past. Like this is a strength. Doesn't matter that it's a strength. I want to make it more of a strength. And I can see them absolutely adding to the pen.
Well, think how the Dodgers beat the Padres in the division series, essentially with a starter, with a bullpen game. They could do nothing offensively. Speaking of the Padres offense, are we finally seeing the real Padres offense now? Contributions from your 4 main guys finding ways to win games.
Yes, I think we're seeing something closer to it. I want to wait till after the deadline, to see like what the real Padres offense is because those guys are starting to hit, and those guys are starting to hit together. Hitting's hard. Like some of those guys are going to be up and down and in slumps. It's just the way it works. Like none of them are perfect hitters. So it's going to come in waves, and Petco Park's a tough place to hit. They need to reinforce the bottom of the lineup still. I want to take away from what the top of the lineup has done the last couple of days and how like the Padres are going to go as Tatis and Machado and Arise and Merrill and Cronenworth and Bogarts and Sheets. They're going to go as those guys go. But when those guys aren't quite up to par, like they're going to need contributions from 7, 8, 9. And they got them last night. That has been the anomaly. The bottom third of the lineup entering yesterday's game, I'm guessing it has changed. I'm guessing they're no longer worst OPS in the league. It's probably jumped over the White Sox. But that's been a bar that's been up on my computer because I've used it in a couple stories indicating how badly they need offensive depth.
Yep.
They clearly need it. Like they need to this offense. I guess I'll say it this way. Because of how good those first 7 guys are, they need to add. It would be doing a disservice to how good this offense could be if they weren't adding a bat at the bottom and then maybe a bat to the bench because the offense has not been good for 3 months, but it clearly can be one of the better offenses in the league if those guys hit plus an addition or 2.
Okay, I'm glad Mills just asked this question. Just got here. Have you guys talked about catchers yet? We're sticking with what we have, huh? All right, I was just going to ask you that question. I know Diaz had the big walk-off yesterday. The bottom of the order had a very, very big night last night. Do you think the Padres are still going to add a catcher, or can they win if you get contributions the way they have, right? 1 through 5, 1 through 6, you add a bat, maybe 2 bats. Can you win with this recipe with the catchers that you do have, or do you think priority is still finding somebody there?
I think I've been saying all year on your show that you can win with this situation, but you need to make it work elsewhere. You need to get that number 8 hitter, and you need to have a bench guy who can legitimately come in and you can feel really good about taking an at bat from one of those catchers in like the 7th inning in the big spot every night. I think hearing the Padres, and this is on like a player and a coaching level, hearing the way they talk about those guys and how integral they are in game planning and run prevention, like I think they would be okay with it too. That the AJ Preller is going to explore options. He's going to explore upgrades at catcher. But I just like, if I'm sitting here, how many hours are we till this trade deadline? Like just over 48 hours. I guess it's like 50 hours away.
Yes.
If I had to guess, I think they're sticking with what they've got at catcher and trying to upgrade elsewhere. Not because they're not looking at catcher, but because the prices are going to be high and because it's hard to find a catcher on the market and it's hard to integrate a catcher into a new team and a new rotation midseason.
Okay, by the way, the name, we have to wrap here shortly. Thanks so much for your time, AJ Cassavell. We're brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. And as AJ mentioned, we are 2 days away and some change from the trade deadline. I cannot wait till it's over. You talked about starting pitching. I was going to ask you about 41-year-old Charlie Morton. Would someone like that make any sense for this team? I mean, you're talking about needing innings, right? Does he make sense to add if you were to move Dylan Cease?
I think he makes sense. Maybe not as a Dylan Cease replacement, but if the price is right and you add to the bullpen and you add to the offense and you have moved Dylan Cease to do those two things and you need someone to fill in, it comes down to the price. And I think that's what AJ Preller would tell you. That's what the front office would tell you. It's like there are a lot of options right now. The Padres can go a lot of different directions, and it will come down to what they have to give up and what they have to be able to deal. And I guess we'll find out in the next 50 hours.
We're going to find out if the price is right. One more thing, really, really good news yesterday on Michael King. What do we think we know about his timeline, given the progress he's made? Is it a rehab assignment next, perhaps as soon as next week?
I'm guessing rehab assignment. If he threw 40 pitches, then you theoretically go to 55, 65. I'm guessing 2 rehab starts, maybe not even rehabs, maybe 1 rehab and then another sim game type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would be back. He can be back at 75 pitches, and I think the Padres can feel just fine with that.
Give it to the bullpen.
That would, in theory, put him back right at a very good time to get him back, which is that the stretch where they're going to go Giants, Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers. So early to mid-August is when it's looking like. I think Michael King wanted sooner than that. I think the Padres are just happy to have him back.
Just before his bobblehead day on August 20th. Last question to you, AJ, and I appreciate your time as well. Tatis, man. I mean, the great thing about this game is you will see sometimes something that you've never seen before. And I feel like we see that with Tatis at least once a month. Yesterday, he gave us the opportunity twice in the same game. Just take me through what you saw and how spectacular that catch was by Tatis to Rob Vientos, and how many players could make that catch.
I think only one. That was an unbelievable play. And I've watched it so many times, and it was, I think, the farthest I've ever seen a home run over the wall, like beyond the wall, and a player leaping up and taking it back. I thought it was gone. I kind of like didn't really put my head down, but I was like, oh, that he doesn't have the ball. And then all of a sudden he's transferring the ball and it drops out of his glove. I thought it was gone because the ball was just so far over the fence. And that's why I had to ask Jackson Merrill about because he was the only one with the real view of how far it went over the fence. And he was just like, yeah, that was out. That was a home run. That was an unbelievable play. He's the best defensive right fielder in baseball, might be the best defensive outfielder in baseball. It is awesome to watch. And it's why, I don't know. I know it's a small segment of the fans and some people like to take to social media to complain, but when you complain about his 810 OPS or whatever it is, and he's doing stuff like that and he's stealing bases, he is fun. He's just so fun to watch. Just he's going to hit. but let's
Yes.
appreciate all the things that he can do on the field.
I'm going to make you do, I'm sorry, one more thing before we wrap today's show. Okay. I know you're not in the prediction business, but I want you to give me a name. Just give me your best hunch. One offensive bat and who the Padres could add. Who makes the most sense? Who are you hearing the most buzz about? They're like, you know what? That can make some sense.
I think Ozuna makes sense. And let's set. I like Taylor Ward as an option too. I like Jesus Sanchez as an option. But if the Padres want to swing big offensively, I think Steven Kwan would be a guy that makes sense because he kind of fits what their offense is trying to do. The question is, what do the Padres have to give up? Probably a lot. We've seen Preller swing big before. I would honestly be kind of surprised if he didn't swing big in totality at this trade deadline. I just don't know what that looks like, whether it's a bat, two bats in the rotation, Dylan Cease. A lot of different ways this deadline can go, and it's going to be exciting.
Yep. All right. Well, again, AJ, thanks for your time. I look forward to the deadline being over in about 2 days, but it's a fun time of year. I'm trying to enjoy it. Just, it's a lot of, did I miss something? What's happening? Scrolling, making sure that you do not get caught by a fake trade rumor. So anyways, all right, AJ.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
My favorite night of year to sleep will be Thursday night because I want to
Thursday
wake up
night
in the middle of
after
the
you
night and
write
worry about what I
your
missed.
report card.
Yes.
All right, AJ. Have a good one. I'll see you later at the ballpark.
Bye, Marty. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That was AJ Cassavell. We're brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. We will talk to you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, day game, then we'll talk to you on Thursday after the trade deadline. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
What about it?
What is it like? I mean, what is it like just chasing the rumors, not knowing what's going to happen?
Oh, I mean, look, middle tip that right there. Look, that's my guy today. That's what I got to worry about tonight. That's the only thing I got to worry about is trying to beat that guy tonight. And that's the only thing that's important.